The campaign for Washington State governor has already started, at least on the Republican side, as Republican hopefuls have already started campaigning. Today, I have one of the campaigns running for governor, Laurel Khan, and she officially launched her campaign on February 5th. Laurel, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this interview for Grassroots Republicans.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Can you briefly tell us a bit about yourself and why you decided to run for governor?
So back in my early days, I was very political, and then I became a mother, and then I opened a restaurant. So for the past 16 years, I've had a restaurant. And during those first years, all I thought about was a restaurant. But as a business owner, government and politics are part of your daily life. And as far as what we deal with. And as time went on and when COVID hit, I realized that I couldn't just focus on business. I had to become involved because there was a lot of government overreach into my business as a small business owner with all the mandates. And I, of course, didn't comply. And that did affect me by them, the liquor board taking my liquor license, which has greatly affected my restaurant. So during all that, as I watched what happened, I knew that I had to become greatly involved. And when I watched what our governor was doing and how much power he had, I knew that I had to run against him or make changes for the people of Washington, because I saw the overreach, even going into homes and in families, and the effect it had on everyone that I was around, which is a lot of people. I felt that it was my job. I was a leader during that time, and I just continue to know that I need to be a leader.
Okay. The current governor has significantly increased the number of homeless people living on the streets over the last 10 years by his actions and inactions. What are your plans on getting the homeless and drug addicts off the street?
That's probably one of my biggest issues. I live in downtown Olympia, so I'm faced with the derelicts and drug addicts on the street constantly. I see it in where my restaurant is in Chehalis. I see it there. It has every year it has become increasingly worse. And what he has done, and with all the money that he's put into it, it hasn't worked. And for himself not to notice it's not working, and for the people that have voted his policies in, it's tragic. I have a plan, and a lot of it is talking about the root of the problem. You have different layers, and the first is real homeless people are getting help. Your true homeless, the help is there; they're getting it. What we're talking really about is the drug addicts, the drug addiction, the drug mentally ill, whether it's through drugs or truly mentally ill, and the root of the problem. I have a plan. I'm not going to go too much detail into it, but what it is, it will be a facility, and it attacks the root of the problem, which is your self-esteem, the guilt associated when you have addiction, and when it's this deep that you're actually on the street. You're not helping yourself. What we've been taken away from all of us out here that aren't addicted, so to speak, is that we're losing our streets, we're losing our parks. And so the people need help. They need to learn how to produce so that their self-esteem can be increased. That's directly related. And so there's programs, and it needs to be economy of scale. It needs to be one program. We have programs going on all over the state. They're not connected. And now we're having facilities where you can get your drug, your methadone or your drugs in a safe setting. This is not going to help the problem. So that's a big project, and I have a business plan written for it. And so that will be one of my big issues.
Okay. What are your thoughts on making the public educational system better and getting parents more involved in it?
I was in teaching early on so that's a near and dear subject for me. Right now, what I see with public education is it probably needs to be dismantled. And that's a really hard thing to say, but it has to be fixed. and there's too much money going into it that is not going toward the student. Education, true education, is going out the door. The leaders in the schools, the principals, like, I want to go to each of them and say, do you want to lead the school? Do you want to be the leader? Do you want to be the principal? Or do you want the government to run your school? And I think our private education is doing a fantastic job, and it's doing it a lot cheaper than what's going on with our public schools. It has to be changed. The money sources coming into the schools has to be depleted and go back to the taxpayers, and parents have to be educated to be involved in the school. They've been shoved away. When you have everything's online, the reaching out and being with your students and your children is seemingly going away, and that is wrong.
Okay. Do you agree, as a business owner, that Washington State is known for making it difficult to own and operate a small business? If you agree with that, how would you make Washington State more small business friendly?
I totally agree with that. Having a business here, I had a business in Chicago, and Chicago gets a lot of flack, but working with the bureaucracy in Chicago was wonderful compared to working with it here. The attitude of the bureaucracy that the business owners have to deal with has to change. The attitude, for one, is robotic, and it's non-human, and it's not right. So then when we try to seek answers or questions, or you try to read through all the codes and what we have to go through, it's almost impossible. And there's no one human at the other end to try to walk us through it. One thing I would do, the easiest way, is there are some industries that have their B&O is mitigated completely, or they only pay a small portion. Across the board for small business, I would take away 50% or more of their B&Os. It's a simple solution. The money goes back to the business. Your customers who are paying the tax would rather that go to the business, keep the business strong and surviving. Right now, we're losing small business. Small business is a fabric of our society. And to lose the small mom pops, small restaurants, non-big box stores will hurt our communities tremendously.
How do you plan to win the state? How do you plan to win the state's governor's race? And if you win, how would you unify the state, as the Democrats have generally won by dividing and pitting people against each other?
So I'm going to maybe start with the end of that question. I see Washington State as being very a uniparty, one party system. And the Republican Party right now is fragmented, and it needs leadership, and it needs pulling together so that we can have a two-party system. Right now, what the bills that are passing are so partisan, and they're not representing a great number of the citizens of the state. I mean, more than 50% across the board. I mean, and so I want to be honest and speak to the people that I'm running with the people. I had a room full of people on my kickoff yesterday, and what I said was, you are all here with me. I'm running as the leader, but you are who I'm running with, and I will be a part of you. And as a leader and as a governor, you have to be working. I mean, you have to be on the streets. You have to be that person that is talking to citizens and business and our bureaucracies and our administrative government that we have right now that needs to be changed. But we need leadership. If you're going to run, for example, the liquor board, if you're going to be the leader of that, and if you have disagreement with the governor, you should speak out. So what we have is a bureaucracy or administrative government that just follows blindly. There's no common sense in so many of the regulations. And we need to talk about that constantly. And I would be working day and night with our legislatures, with our citizens, just out on the streets working.
Okay. If people want to know more about your campaign, where can they find out more about it and what you stand for?
So I have my website set up. which has all my links to Facebooks, and then it has links to, I think, all my personal and my back history. LaurelWheatCon.com is the website. And that's probably the best way to find out my information and my events. And it's a fairly strong web page, just new, but that would be the best way to reach me.
Okay. Thank you, Laurel, for your time, and I want to wish you the best of luck on your campaign.
Thank you very much, Andrew.